Greetings, Zimbabwe, and welcome to Zimbabwe Daily. This is Frank Talk with me, Yvonne, and today we are talking Memory Machaya. Is there hope for the girl child? On July 15, we received news that a 14-year-old had died while giving birth at a church shrine in Marangis in Manicaland. And what we know is that the girl's aunt, one Alice Mabika, said Memory had complained of a headache, and instead of taking her to a clinic, the elderly women smeared salt inside her mouth and poured paraffin into her nose. We are also told that she died moments later after giving birth and was buried at the shrine in the absence of her mother. This death was also concealed from the police. Now, Memory's case is one of many others that remain hidden behind the different cults and religious groups. This issue this time has been escalated because the girl died, and it has forced the police to treat it as a possible murder. The noise around the death of this 14-year-old has once again thrown into the field the talk of inconsistencies in laws and acts like the Marriages Act, Criminal Law and Codification Act, as well as the aspect of children's rights. We're going to listen to this small poem before I introduce to you my guests for today. Such a powerful plea from that young girl speaking on the death of Memory Machaya. So, Mwanauyu, hey, it's so touching and it's so painful. So we are going to have this conversation on this platform today as we talk to Karen Mukwasi. We started a petition online which has received a positive feedback from people who are signing this petition to say we want justice for Memory. We also have the director for Sprout Women, Caroline Mtimbanyoka, as well as Ward 14 Junior Councillor for in Mutare, Tanya. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me. Let me see all of you. Okay, so I have Tanya. Tanya, welcome. Tanya, can you hear me? All right. I also have Director Caroline. Caroline, welcome.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm going to ask you to fully introduce yourself to our guests, to our viewers, so that we can begin this conversation.
Okay, my name is Caroline Mtimbanyoka. I'm the director of Sprout Women Empowerment Trust. I work with women and girls on sustainable livelihoods and women development in Chitungwiza, peri-urban, and very soon will also be in the rural areas of Chiweshe. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I also have Karen. Karen, how are you and welcome?
Thank you, Yvonne.
Excellent. May you fully introduce yourself to our viewers.
My name is Karen Mukwasi. I am the founder and director of the Pada Platform, an organization that leverages the digital space and technology and the media to amplify the voices of young women and girls. And I'm also a women's rights activist. Um, Thank you for inviting me, Yvonne.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming through, Karen. And Karen, I'm going to start with you because you have started a digital petition on the late memory Machaya calling for justice. Can you tell us a little bit about the petition and the feedback that and the support that you have received from Zimbabwe at large on this petition?
All right. So when I read the story of Memory Machaya, I think it's reminded me, and I think a lot of other women in Zimbabwe who want to see a better world for the girl child, that we have been too quiet on the issues of, the sexual abuse of children. That it had to take a death of a 14-year-old in such unfortunate circumstances for us to start speaking out. But then I don't realize that we need to use this as a springing board for calling for the rights of the girl child. So I started the petition and to try and compel the police to at least look into the case of Memory Machaya, because I'd been reading that the police had been saying that they knew nothing about this death. So the petition, within 24 hours, we had more than 20 signatures. We had 20,000 people had signed the petition, and now we stand at almost 100,000 signatures, and we now have very overwhelming response. And I think everyone has been saying we want justice for Memory, but we also want to make the laws work for our girl child. So that has been the response from Zimbabwe and the international community.
Awesome. And you raise a fundamental issue, which is why I've called all of you here. Tanya, can you hear me now? Can you introduce yourself to our viewers? You may want to unmute your mic, Tanya. All right, I think we're having connection challenges with Tanya there. Caroline, I'll come to you. And we have this scenario in our country where she actually gets pregnant for a whole 9 months and she dies whilst giving birth. Where was society?
Uh, this is really something that is shocking. But what it does is it exposes the really bad situation that we have around the issue of rape. I will call it rape and refer to Section 78 of the Constitution, which is very, very clear in terms of the age that allows us to choose as women when to get into marriage. What it says is that at the age of 18, only then can one choose to enter into marriage. So, what this means is very clear. And it means that anyone below the age of 18 cannot get into marriage. So, if we call it for what it is, this is rape. Sadly, it took the passing of memory for us to be able to really raise our voice and say, hey, can we look into this? But we are also seeing reluctance, like what my previous speaker was saying. The police saying they are actually not aware of such things happening in our societies when it's all over social media. They are taking so much time, which then allows us to start questioning if there are more things attached to it than what meets the eye. It's simple. This lady, this young woman, young girl, actually, it's not even a woman, young girl was raped, and the culprit is known. Why is it taking so much time for this culprit to face the full wrath of the law? When are we going to be shaken? When are we going to say enough is enough? If we take what was circulating on social media to be true, we are also shocked that even the parents were saying they want to compensate the death of memory by giving this man, this criminal, a 9-year-old, a 9-year-old. Before we get into activism, we are people. And as a mother myself, I'm shocked to say I've got a 4-year-old daughter. So in 5 years' time, someone else will be finding her attractive enough to make her a wife. This is shocking. This is really shocking. And I think we need to get into it. And, the said part is this is just what is coming out because death has occurred. What about those who are in this situation and it's not being talked about? There's just so much that is happening there, and we cannot have the police tiptoeing on issues that are, of I don't even know how to express myself when it comes to this issue. It's really painful. It's something that is very evil. And it's something that is very
And network decides to be
and we
jealous
need to
as
interrogate the church and its systems to say
right.
what is really happening.
Yes, you can go ahead, Caroline.
Hello, Yvonne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You can go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying that it's really something that we need to look into. And
All right, so network again comes in. Tanya, can you hear me? Tanya is okay. We've lost her again. All right, so Tanya is a member of the junior council in Manicaland province, from where this whole thing was coming through. And the junior councillors have taken it upon themselves to push the petition brought on board by Karen, and they have been making these campaigns in Manicaland and calling for justice for memory. It's really, really heart wrenching what has happened with memory. Thank you so much to all of you for coming through. The president himself needs to be serious about these people and stop protecting them while they do as they please. It is so sad she lost her life. That's totally barbarian, inhuman. Alfred Piri, thank you so much for coming through. Karen, what do you think about what Alfred here is saying about the president needing to involve himself in this and other matters concerning child marriages and rape?
At this point, when I look at, our country being in the news for something as barbaric as this, and then all those women who've come up to even talk about what has happened to their children, I see a crisis as
Mm,
far as the safety of the child is concerned. And it's something that I would really believe the president should concern himself with, because this is, it's about the law of this country. It's about this country being a safe space. And then if we
mm,
have, because we've seen them, we've seen them in Marange, also wearing these white garments, marching around with this church leaders in Marange. And then when this
right,
story comes, people who we know that they are in contact with, we expect them, to go back there and maybe make it known how they feel about this issue and what the law says. Because no one
right,
is above the law. It doesn't matter what your relationship with the ruling party is. No one is above the law. We have a constitution. It's said that our laws have not yet been harmonized, but we still, we still, this is not legal as far as, our constitution is concerned. So we really need we need the government and the president as the head of government to make himself head over this issue. And we want to see action because he's the man who's got the most power to act in this country. And even putting his foot down to call for the expedition of this bill that we've been waiting for since 2019.
right. Tanya, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you as junior councillors are doing in Manicaland to sensitize your society about the issues to do with children's rights? I'll need you to unmute your mic. Tanya, I'll need you to unmute your mic. Unmute your mic and go ahead. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. You can
Okay.
you can introduce yourself
Tanya
and
Mshaka,
then
Junior Councillor, White Houghton, from Machaya.
right.
Okay.
Tell us what you're doing. Go ahead, Tanya. Right, we seem to be having another clog there with network, Karen and Tanya there. But thank you so much for coming through, people. Asha, you are saying Memory's case is only one of the so many which take place around the country in these cults. Let's protect our children, and I think this is a serious call. Tanya, you can go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. As I was saying, lately I've been carrying out a small survey in my area, and we've come to discover that these Maposi people, they take it as the culture, and it's part of depriving the children's right, according to the African chapter, basically survival and the development of the child. Literally, there is no development of the child.
Oh my word. Tanya, can you try to take out your video so that we can try and get your audio instead? Because we want to hear you. Try to switch off your camera so that we can at least hear what you have to be saying. The network that side is a very poor. I think it's a very disturbing thing that has happened to Memory Machaya. Just the imagination of a 14-year-old girl in our area being pregnant, let alone then dying during labor. What is society doing with such information? Why are we not coming through to assist these young children? Icho chazoita kuti mwana ne 14, let alone younger. We've heard of younger girls who've been married to this church here, Joanne Marange. Why do we want to get married to younger girls? I think for me, that makes me, I don't know if I should say angry, incensed, I don't know. But mwanane 14 years, anotakura mimba how mu community mnogara vanhu and no one says anything. Caroline.
You are right there, Yvonne, by actually saying that you are angry, because that is the feeling that we are having. As I'm sitting here, I'm also someone who is very angry because of this system. And what is really painful is that the church is very silent on this issue, not just the Marange. If we look deeply into it, we have church communities who are very silent and not saying anything around this issue. Then you start wondering who is protecting these people, because it's something that is ongoing, that is known in the church. It's something that is actually practiced within that space. So you begin to wonder, why is there so much silence? Why is it that people cannot speak up? Why is it that as women we are tolerating this system to go on and on? As a mother myself, I'm really pained, and I'm here looking at my daughter. What about you? And even going to the extent of saying, okay, this one is has passed on. I can actually give to this man a 9-year-old from your womb, Yvonne. You start wondering what kind of I don't know if I should say it's a psychological situation. I don't know how to go about it. But at this time and age, I think it's high time we say enough is enough. I think it's high time we start unlearning some of these really evil practices that are causing so much harm to our girls. This is rape. It's pure rape. This is happening, and if it's a chain or if it's a system or if it's a culture that is there, we need to face it head on and interrogate it and question it, Yvonne, and get these culprits in prison, because according to the constitution is there. This child is under 18. That child
Right.
was not even developed yet, so it's not shocking that she couldn't give birth through normal means. Look at this now, she's going to this mbuya, whatever, who's trying to help, and they put paraffin in her
In her
home.
nose.
So we're just wondering what kind of that, where are the our hospitals? Can we interrogate the system that says they cannot seek medical attention, because maybe in some way she could have been saved had she been allowed to go to a healthcare system? So, this is painful, and we cannot be quiet. We cannot be silent about this, and we will continue to call upon the government, the president himself, to do something. I've seen Mnangagwa going in many different places and trying to, to support many women. This is also an issue that we're also calling her to look into and to start interrogating and getting into, because we just not we just don't need people speaking in different corners. It's something that we need to come together and start looking at it as a collective and interrogate this evil system. Over to you, Yvonne.
It's really evil, Caroline. Unfortunately, because of internet connectivity, we're failing to hear what Tanya, and we've lost Karen as well. But I really wanted her to come through, because we have a situation where we have Mitemo E, and unfortunately, Mitemo and Acho, they're not speaking to each other. We have got a scenario where we have a scenario where we have these whole customary rights and practices that force a woman to marry. We have the Marriage Act that provides that any adult man who has sexual relations, actually it's the constitution that says any adult man who has sexual relations with a willing child between ages of 12 and 15 is guilty of statutory rape, because children in this age group are considered too immature to make informed decisions about their sexual behavior. So the child's consent is not a defense for the man. So just the fact that this child is below 16, it means that this child has been raped. Let alone nyama kutaura yekuti vati, it's been on in the media that they want to give this man, their 9-year-old, chaizo chavari kuzviitira kuti why would you want to give a child to a grown man who should be doing something else? He should get married to people of his age, not daughters, his own children. Is getting married to his own children. And we have this law again that is saying that if the person is married to a child under 16 having sexual relations with the spouse, it is not statutory rape. Now, why is it Mitemeredu, they're not speaking to each other? Would you know, Caroline? And in terms of the stuff that you go out there to teach women, is this something that you are also advocating for kuhurumende, kuti ngaionewo kuti mitemo idzika idzi dzinotaurirana?
It's always something that we try and look into, Yvonne, but to really look at that either ways, if you look at the section 17 and also the instruments that you're talking about, this child is under 16 years or under, she's just 14, and the other one is 9 years. So what it is rape. And at this time, it's one thing that we need to be looking into, to say, if we actually know that it's rape and we have all the information that we want, why is this culprit still free? And why do we have parents also, keeping, or I don't know, being a custody of such an evil system? They face the full of the law. We have, situations where sometimes women are not well versed in terms of what the constitution says, and all these instruments. There are things that we usually find to be known by the elites, and it's really difficult for women, or some women don't even understand the constitution itself. Some have never seen it. But it's work that is ongoing. It's work that has to be done, and not by just one organization, but by many. We should be all responsible to ensure that people understand the constitution and they understand the law. But in this sect, somehow it's as if everything is, they're in their own space, they're in their own vacuum, and they're untouchable. And we are saying enough is, we are saying that they must learn. If this is a turning point where they have to learn and understand that this is wrong, and I'm sure they know, they're just
Right.
not bothered. And I think that's why we have a huge cry of people saying, why is there delay in justice to be done for Memory
Right.
Machaya?
And Simba
Over to
comes
you,
through and says, this is a practice that has been prevalent in this cult, which is called a church, sadly. The authorities are fully aware, but turn a blind eye to this abuse because they want their votes more than anything else. It seems the police, ZANU-PF, and the entire justice system has endorsed this. Sad. And this is sad. This is actually sad when people begin to feel this way and people are expressing themselves and they feel that our politics is more concerned with getting votes rather than protecting the people. Now, how do we protect our children? Karen, is it about understanding mutemo, or me as a mother, I should be able to say, mwana wangu ka, I want to, mothers protect their children. Now, if these parents are not saying, if this 14-year-old has died, we're going to give you a 9-year, what does that show us? What does that tell us? Is it about mutemo, or is it ignorance, as Caroline has said, or it's, I don't know, it's a demon or something? How do you give up a 14-year-old for marriage?
It's when you look at this, I refuse to call it a church really, because when I look at religion and what it is, I wouldn't want to put the system that they are working under a church. I wouldn't want to call it that. So this cult that we are dealing with, we look at the mothers with 12, 13. They were given into marriage. They were not given the choice, and then they give, and it's a vicious circle. So like Caroline was saying, we need to get to this point where it's the system that has to be brought down, because as long as this system exists, even with the laws, they are going to circumvent the laws. They are going to try to hide everything. The laws will just make it better to hold them accountable. But then now, when you look at the kind of patriarchal setup that's in this system, no one is free. They claim that it's freedom of worship. But how is it freedom of worship when you tell a 12-year-old that they do not have to be in school, that they have to get married? They are not old enough to utilize this freedom. So usually you expect parents to protect their children, to make the best choices that will, help them realize their potential in life. But then they are sending their daughters to the sacrifice, and they are hiding. These deaths, this is not the first death that has occurred. When I was after the petition, I had a lot of women coming into my inbox and telling me these horrific stories about how children are being buried in these shallow graves, and then sometimes the police actually come and exhume bodies. But then we see people still going to that church. It seems like a source, I think Caroline referred to it as a psychological problem that we are even dealing with. But for me, it's really a structural challenge that we are facing. They are in these communities where these church leaders are so powerful that they are a power unto themselves. Even the chiefs in these communities, we don't hear them being vocal about what the abuse that's happening in this church. The women go day in and day out to be abused. They refuse to get even their children immunized, and they even claim that why are there mortuaries at hospital? It means that people still die. And paraffin is a poisonous substance, and then you see them feeding paraffin to this child who's already vulnerable. She's been raped, she's pregnant, she's about to give birth, she's unwell, and then they feed the poisonous substance. I think we are really dealing with a situation where we cannot engage this kind of people. We need the law to be very clear. The government needs to exercise its mandate. The state has this mandate to protect its citizens, and then we are
Right.
dealing with citizens who even need to be protected from themselves, because they claim not. They clearly continue to harm and harm in the name of religion, and then the women stay there. They have no voice. They're silent. We don't even know what the source of their fear is. Why are they so afraid? I think we need to start interrogating these systems, because I think we are really dealing with some kind of modern day slavery that we need to. The police need to, if it's an operation that starts where they really look into these religious cults and really get to the bottom of how are the power structures there? Who is there voluntarily? What kind of holds do these sects have over the people? I think these are the questions now that our state has to start asking. And it's wrong to sacrifice people for politics, because we are losing here a whole, a community is losing a whole generation. We find 10, 11, 12-year-olds given to polygamous marriages. It does not make sense. I'm sitting here as a mother, and my first instinct is to protect my children, and then I'm seeing another mother pledging a 9-year-old. That clearly does not show a system of, clearly thinking.
Karen, giving birth is actually it's a whole dynamic to a woman. And matured when I gave birth when I was 26, but I realized that when I was 27, but I realized that giving birth was just a huge violation to my body. It was so I was never the same. Now I'm trying to imagine a 14-year-old Tanya. Okay, we've lost it again. Thank you so much for coming through, Simbarache Takawira, with your comment. Thank you so much, Lutsula Ngwe. You say in some countries, e.g. Cuba, barbaric churches were banned for life. Amen. Thank you so much. Sengezo, you're asking what kind of God do these churches worship? Well, they claim they worship God. Charity, Rujeko, thank you. You say it's an issue. Honestly, something has to be done. This makes me mad, angry, sad. The silence on its own leaves a lot to wonder. We can't call it ignorance, because definitely it's not. And Ignatius, you come through and say it's ZANU-PF church, nothing will be done. Where is the Women's League? That's ZANU-PF sect, not church. So this is a feeling that people are getting if they now act as the untouchables. And I think this week we'll have to get in touch with Police Zimbabwe just to get feedback on how far they have gone, because they say after your outcry, Karen, that they've now instituted investigations into the issue. What sort of investigations needs to be done? The person is known for crying out loud. The people who are part of the whole process that took place leading to the death of this young girl are known. We should have people in custody. We should be talking about a court date. And, we need to, this is so sad. This is so sad. Thank you so much, Praise Nida, for coming through. Yes, it is sad. Now, as we wrap up, Carol and Karen, we want to know, what is the way forward? We're going to have more of these talks, because I feel the issue of children's rights, child abuse, continues unabated in our society, and we seem not to say anything. In fact, Jukutkapa next door, but it's not tikataura zonzi murukurwadziwa nesu. Why are you? She's married ka akatororwa saka imuchi kukunetsai chi ari pamuromo wake saka munhu oregedza here kuita. And sometimes we as neighbors tinongozomira, we stand afar, not because we don't have anything to say, but because unongoudzwa kuti mwana wacho ndewako here. What is the responsibility of the state in the protection of children? Tinonzwa dzimwe nyika dzinonotora vana vacho kuti they are the word of the state or something. Muno muzvinombonyanya kufamba sei? I know you guys are social workers as well. Now, how does that whole system work? We want to round up this conversation. But zvinobofamba sei, can't government protect the girl child or the boy child? Cherari mwana hatikwanisi kuchengetedza here a child kana zvadai zvichiitika. I'll start with you, Karen.
The government clearly has the resources.
All right, I'll start with Karen, then I'll come to you, Caroline.
The government has the resources, the mandate, and the power to protect each and every child in this country. Because when we find, the state with all its arms, they have the power to, first of all, to bring the culprits to book, to even take the children into a protected environment. The definition of a child is anyone who's under 18. And when they are in a harmful environment, the best thing is to take them out of that environment, because that's the right to safety of these children is being violated. These are minors. They can't even make decisions on their own. And then clearly we see that the people who are supposed to be making decisions for them, their parents, their guardians, have clearly they do not care about the safety of these children. So this is where government comes in. We have the ministries, we have the government departments that are supposed to be taking care of this. Why do we even have a whole department in a ministry that's supposed to be looking at children's welfare? This is the children's welfare we're talking about. Because the reason why we have a ministry that has to look into the issues of child welfare is because we understand that children are not always going to be protected within the homes where they come from.
Right.
So government has a mandate to at least go into that environment, into these communities, because we know these communities. We've been talking about them since day one. They have to go there, investigate, and if children have to be taken out of these communities for their safety. I remember there was a time when there was a church somewhere in Guruve where the state had to go in and the police had to take all the children that were at that cult. If I remember, I don't know if you remember the case of the young Jesus, where children they'd been taken away from their homes and they were staying with what they were calling a mission, where this cult, and children were not in school. They were speaking a language that no one knew what it was, and they were trying to build their own community, and had even guards to make sure that parents could not even come to take their children. They did go in and they did something, and then now they cannot even argue that it's the parents who are putting these children into under harm. No, these children have every right to be protected because they are under 18. If the wrong choices are made for them, then we even expect the parents to be arrested because they are part of the violations. As much as we can say they are part of a system where they are powerless, when they give a child who's under 18 into marriage, that is illegal. Those parents also have to be arrested. So at least
Yes.
if we see this arrest just once, and we see that the parents are brought to book, we see that the perpetrator, the person who raped this child, when they claiming to be married, because you don't get married to an under 18-year-old who's too young to consent. It's rape very clearly. So this person who violated this child and the people who led to a death, who fed a poisonous substance, we want to see arrests. If the government can do this, then other cases can then come to light and we can start to deal with this issue. As a state, as citizens, and our state as well, there's a responsibility to these children. And I think right now the silence, as we continue to be silent, as we continue to turn a blind eye, we are all culpable. We cannot watch as something like this happens, and our government cannot afford this.
Caroline.
Um, you know what? I don't think I can dilute what she has just said to say the systems are there in place, but implementing what we clearly know to be, even in our constitution, is what is really the challenge. And, this men or people who are doing this, people who are raping underage girls, should be behind bars. And the law must also be applied the same to those who are custodians of this evil system. If women are protecting, or if the women who are sending their children into marriage, their girls into marriage, if they are, families, they must also face the full wrath of the law. And I think it's high time, as communities, we start naming this problem as it is, naming and making sure that people really understand that if a child is under 18, that child cannot consent to these marriages or whatever, even akatizira mwana ngatorwe mwana iyeye, because asati asvika paage yekuti anonzi akumurume hazviite. And enough is enough with this. We cannot be silent. We need to keep on speaking about it until something changes. The church cannot be silent. We will not allow them to be silent. We'll keep talking about it, because as mothers, we are facing our daughters, and we cannot imagine, that in 5 years' time, or 3, 4, 5 years' time, someone will be seeing our daughters as someone who's attractive enough to take that child as a wife. It is insane. We cannot do it. We cannot be silent. Let's continue putting pressure until things change. That's my final word. Thank you, Yvonne.
It is absolutely insane, Carol, because the other time I was watching a video of this man who happens to go to this church, and he was saying, "I need the women kuti tizorima munda." Kuwanda kwavo vakadzi nevana ndokukurawo kunochita I don't understand the thinking, but I want to agree with you ladies that government needs to step in. If we've put in place instruments because we understand societies can have funny traditions that are abusive in nature because of the structural challenges that we continue to face as a nation. These instruments have been put in place, but if they're not being implemented, so what's the point? We've got a very effective police force. We've seen them in action. Why can't they just go into those spaces and do the right thing? Why can't they enforce the laws? These are the questions that we continue to have, but we have to stop here. Caroline and Karen, thank you so much for coming onto the fore. We need to keep pushing this issue of children's rights, children's rights, children's rights. We have to protect our girls. We have to protect our boys. We have to protect our children. We are seeing a lot of these cases on the rise. And definitely as Zimbabwe Daily, we are saying we want to take it up to say we want to bring these issues right to the fore. Caroline, Karen, thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Thelma Gwaze said this must be banned in Zimbabwe, but I know this government will not do that because they benefit from these thugs when they rig elections. Thank you so much, Thelma. Thank you to all of you who have tuned in into this discussion. We want to be able to talk more on this. Thank you so much, Njabulo Ndlovu. Aluta, continue fighting the struggle. Let's save our children. Well said. We need to protect our girls. We need to protect our boys. We need to protect our children. Thank you so much, Zimbabwe, for coming through. If you live next to somebody who is doing this, we have the responsibility to protect children as a society. And everyone's child. Iye kuda kuita mazvake mazvake iri kutikonzeresera. We are losing productive lives because of silly, couty thinking of, I don't even understand why they want to marry a young girl, a baby. Why? Regaidziwe shiri. Let them be let them be birds. Allow them to grow. I'm looking at you, ladies. You should act on this. Thank you so much, Sengezo. Karen has actually started a petition, and we want to push it through so that it comes from virtual to the physical. It needs to work. It needs to get into parliament, and it needs to get the appropriate attention that we deserve. And I hope the police will be able to give us feedback on how many people have been arrested. Thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. Hope to have more voices, especially from the younger girls, to hear about their own take on what is happening. Thank you so much, and have yourselves a wonderful rest of day. Join me at midday as I talk to Eliana Makombe, a rising musician. God bless you.